Alright guys, how's it going? It is Mr. Extra here from Team Extra, you already know. So, I figure it's time for a meta tier list. We haven't done one of these in a while, been very busy, cooking up goblins, doing lab stuff, here and there, touching base with a lot of things. So, meta tier list, as you would assume it is. Alright, so meta tier list post Phantom Nightmare. Let's get into it, guys. Alright, so I got about 37 choices down here. As you can tell, we're going to be talking about a lot today. Pros, cons, representation, usual stuff. Alright, so let's start off with the chopping block. Alright, so we have Voiceless Voice with the chopping block. So, Voiceless Voice, so far from what I've seen, Voiceless Voice is a very, very annoying ritual deck. It's not bad. It's a good deck. It has linear lines. It's very predictable, especially when it's pure. But this deck has a lot of potential. This deck is easily, I want to say, a tier 1 right now. I'm not even going to argue with it. The deck's very annoying. Cerebus is annoying. Skull Guardian and the Barrier, very annoying as well. They set up a pretty moderate field and sit behind hand traps and summon limit guys. You know, anyone who's had to deal with this before, 9 times out of 10, they're playing summon limit. So, overall, tier 1 as of, right now. Plus, Voiceless has gotten a couple tops recently. A couple regional tops, if I remember correctly. A lot of local tops, too. But let's go ahead and talk about Salad. So, Salad right now has still pretty good representation because with all the fire support that came out, that Fire King and Snake Eyes using primarily in Rescue Ace, which I forgot to put them on here, unfortunately. Rescue Ace would be tier 2 right now, just to let you all know in advance. Salad is probably a good tier 2 right now. It's very good. It loses to Nib still, loses a lot of hand traps on a Droll format. It has a hard time to struggle behind Droll. But overall, Salad has a pretty good representation. Well, so that I've seen anyways, and I look around for this type of stuff all the time to try to give you guys the best information I can. But tier 2 right now, personal opinion, hot take I guess, Goblins. You guys know I love my Goblin Gang shit. My Goblin Gang stuff right there. But Goblins is straight rogue. They got one regional top recently, actually playing the variant that I play. So Horus Goblins, Horus cards are really crazy in their own right. They're really, really good. It is rogue right now because unless we're in XYZ format, Goblins are just doing Goblin things. Your only factor of win cons right now, Goblins, is setting up your Maikashi rollback luck, or, I don't know, the other word would be, that's kind of it. You set up that, or you just go second, break their board with board breakers, make a Zeus their board, build afterwards. That's about it. Goblins are going to be straight rogue for a while. They, the archetype itself was really good, but you can tell that they're going to get more support. Like right now, right off rip, they're actually pretty good. But you can just tell that they're going to get support at some point. They're not good right now. If Pearly was still the big deck in the room, then they would be amazing right now. But that's not. So let's move on. Scareclaw. Scareclaw is rogue right now. It is actually probably effectively worse than Goblins, in my opinion, at the moment. Because Goblins can at least set up my Akashi lock, make Draco Future, put up a semi-decent board, do the full armor exceed plays and everything. Scareclaw, literally, Tryhard doesn't do anything. Tryhard's no main con. Is Tryhard set up Blackout. Well, not Blackout, but Twin Saw, which is basically Blackout. And just set up Baron and stuff. But the problem with it is Tryhard has protection when the monsters are trying to affect him on the field. So if you take Promethean Princess, for example, popping from grave, no. So unless you got that arrival in graveyard to stop the pop, they're not doing a whole lot. They're not doing a whole lot. So especially in this destruction fire format. Punk, same deal. Punk has the same problems. Yeah, Punk can moderately combo off, do a bunch of stuff. You can cram up hand traps and everything, but I mean, outside of making in Punisher and making a bunch of 11s, this deck's not doing a lot right now. Representation's pretty low. You have to probably play the Brave package just to make this thing work. Yeah, you're going to have to E-tail that Zoomon out. You're going to have to push in from there, but it's not great right now, guys. It's not great. So, let's talk about Sky Striker. Sky Striker, this is rogue. we're gonna say it's better than the other two, but Sky Striker has to go second, and usually can't do enough to break boards. It can, do the double Widow Anchor, yeah, it can do engage and all that stuff, but if they have like a Nat Beast or an Anti-Spell or anything like that, or you're just dead in the water. Sky Striker has a problem right now of putting up enough damage to kill, and the biggest deck in the room, which is Fire King Snake Eyes, is very resilient at not dying and then turning around and rebuilding the whole field on either your turn or their turn. Alright, let's talk about Branded. Branded right now is doing really good. I'd say it's better than Voiceless right now, because any deck that can play Super Poly right now, which Voiceless can too, is good right now. Because Branded doesn't care if their cards get destroyed, so unless Fire King Snake Eye decks are so-and-so against it, they can Super Poly the board. They can use Mirror Jade still, and I mean, yeah, you can do the Mirror Jade effect, effectively help your opponent, but you can also force out a bunch of effects on their end phase when your Mirror Jade wipes their board, so to speak. Overall, really good right now. Very high representation, regional wise and local wise. It's just an overall good deck right now. It's pretty great. Let's see, Sharks. Sharks is still rogue. I don't know what to say. Deck has been doing a lot. You're going to have to tech it all the way out just to even keep up with what's currently in the format. But you really have to tech that out, unfortunately. And you also need to be really good at the deck specifically, understand your lines. And if you don't make that Zeus, or if you don't Water Barrier statue your opponent, especially in Fire format, you were kind of screwed, guys. So, Sharks are rogue. We have Heroes next. Heroes right now, we're going to put it highest portion of rogue. Heroes has a okay matchup against most decks. Darklaw is still really good, especially against Fire. But ultimately, like, if they can't get out Darklaw and Plasma, that's kind of it. Yeah, you can set up DPE, but DPE is not only going to help a Fire format. I'm sorry, it's a Destruction format too. Or you could set up Favorite Contact, go to Shining Neos, but I mean, unless you're an extremely good pilot and you can sequence this deck really good, it's rogue. It's 100% rogues, unless you've been playing a real long time or you just really, really know your lines in the matchup against like Fire or like Labyrinth or any of the big decks in the room right now. Labyrinth's not a big deck in the room, don't get me wrong. I just like that deck. But Popar goes hard, unfortunately. So, we're going to go Dynamorphia. Dynamorphia is tier 2. It has multiple regional tops. Fun fact, guys, most of these regional tops is my buddy Evan, who is also from Team Extra. So there you go. That man's been out there playing through the Fire meta right now with Rexterm. He's had no problems. He's gotten several tops this format so far. 2 regional tops already. Bunch last year, plus YCS top last year. Besides the point, the deck itself is not bad. It's very, very cheap. Needs a really good pilot. And if you're playing Dynamorphia with hand traps, you probably should just play a bunch of note cards instead. So Strike, Iron Thunder, Judgment, and yeah, if you're not main decking the Ferret Flames, what are you even doing? So next, let's talk about Kashtira. Kashtira is also probably tier 2 right now, mainly because of Shifter. This is a format where Shifter cripples a lot of decks. Cash is still pretty good in its own right, being a mid-range kind of. It's more of just a mid-range deck, but ultimately, it just depends. You got to have that Shifter. If you don't, Fire is going to chew through your board 9 times out of 10, unless you just have all the hand traps to back your field. Tier 2, I'd probably put it in front of Salad, but Salad has a lot of potential too. Centaurian. Centaurian's easily 1.5. Calamity Lock is still pretty good. Calamity Lock is really good if you don't stop it, because it's basically turn pass. You better have that imperm ready, because that's like their main thing. It's Calamity Lock, Calamity Lock, Calamity Lock. Anytime Centaurian does not go into Calamity Lock, they usually lose. That's their main con right now. That's all they got. Until their support anyways. There's more support coming out for this deck, and this deck is going to turn to a Shifter deck. Ooh. Alright. Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is a fat, I want to say tier 2 right now. It has weird matchups with Fire. It can play a lot of non-engine, and it can play Shifter. But that's kind of it. You got to be a really seasoned Vanquish Soul player, though, in my opinion, to like keep up with what's currently going on in the Yu-Gi-Oh format for Fire format. But hey, I mean, it's got some representation, but it's not the best right now. It's a hit and miss. Take it as you want. So I got an Unsteady down here. We're just going to put this as Horus decks collectively. Like Horus variant decks. This is also tier 2. And this is coming from a guy who's been playing Horus in his decks since it came out. So, it is also tier 2. Really good. King Sark is awesome. But I mean, if you did a pure Horus deck, it would not do very good unless you just go second break their field and then put up like Photon Lord and some negates afterwards. Because going first, you're not going to set up too much. Good engine though overall. Definitely tier 2. Drytron. Drytron right now is also tier 2. Mainly because you can still do the Mundo plays, you can still try to turn skip people, and you can play Voiceless Voice in it, which, ironically enough, it meshes pretty well. Overall, I don't have too much to say about it, aside from as long as this deck dodges Droll or Shifter, then it's pretty good. So we got Rika next. Rika right now, again, tier 2. I would actually put it further up here. Rika being tier 2 is not too surprising. This deck's been tier 2 over in the TCG. Sorry guys. It's been tier 2 in the TCG for a long time. Mostly because it requires like very dedicated pilots compared to the OCG where they just have the best players who play this deck over there. But ultimately, Rika's getting more support here soon. Well, there's generic plant support that they're probably going to keep playing. This deck is pretty good in its own right. It does a bunch of stuff, and if they put out that Cactus Bouncer, you better have Imperm for it, or Veiler or something. Well, Imperm particularly. Because if you can't stop Cactus Bouncer, you're going to scoop it up to game 2. But that's kind of all they have right now, too. Yeah, they make a pretty big field. They put up a bunch of disruptions with Con. But that's kind of it. Fire kind of still plays through that, and I'm comparing everything to Fire right now because it's Fire format. Sprite. Sprite is definitely tier 2. I'm going to put it in the back. This requires a very dedicated player to do good with his deck. You can go second, play Board Breakers, which is fine. That's probably the better choice. Or you can go first and set up a typical Sprite board and walk into like a Super Poly or get your field broke by Fire. It really just depends on how the Sprite player sequences it, right? But yeah. So let's go with Fire King. We'll go Pure Fire King. Pure Fire King, I'm going to say, is a 1.5 because Pure Fire King still is pretty good. It does a lot of good stuff. It still does Princess and everything. This is just Fire King without the Snake Eye cards, guys. Ultimately, deck's good, pretty easy to learn. It's Fire format, and this deck is part of the reason why it is. And overall crazy. I would actually put it behind Centaurian like I have it right now. Deck is nuts when it's played correctly, though. Snake Eye Fire King. We're going to go ahead and put this as the first tier 0. Yeah, we are in a tier 0 format. It is, it's not the worst tier 0 format I've been in. I mean, tier format was a lot worse. But this deck is crazy. All it does is recur, add, build field, destroy cards, board wipe, and kill you. This deck is stupid. Like, the Snake Eye cards with Fire King, absolutely dumb. But the deck is strong in its own right. Labyrinth right now. This is going to be a hot take only because I really like Lab. Lab, I'm going to say, is a 1.5, but it requires a really good player. The Lab deck itself is going to have to be very tacked out. So you're going to be wanting to run DDG, Ice Dragon's Prison, stuff like that. Hell, if you can Barrier Statue, the Dark Statue out there in Fire format, that will actually steal you some games. This is coming from someone who's firsthand done this more than once. Because 9 times out of 10, if you get that statue out, they have to swing over it, and then all you gotta do is protect it. 9 times out of 10, you're able to do that too. 1.5 on the back end though. Marincess right now is straight rogue, mainly because it loses a shifter more than anything. It can kind of play through draw a little bit. Just depends if they got everything they need in their hand. But this deck gets outpaced way too easily from like Fire King or Snake Eye Fire King. And it ultimately kind of gets bullied right now in this format. So I'm going to just keep it rogue for the time being. Exo Sisters, we're going to also list this as rogue. The only plus they got really right now is the fact that they can play shifter. And like there are 2 trap cards They one of them does banish, which is pretty good. Outside of that, that's kind of all they got. I mean, you can end on your big XYZ monster for them, and then like banish card and tag out and stuff. But if you don't sequence it correctly, you kind of get screwed over. Infernoble right now is tier 2, and that is Infernoble playing like the Flame Swordsman cards. Infernoble by itself after it lost Isolt is not that great, but ultimately like it's still a deck. They still do the Charles Lock. They still do everything else. They just have to long-hand it a little bit, right? With the Flame Swordsman cards, it gives them like a free body to throw around, some little recursion, all that good stuff, right? Tier 2 there for the time being. Dark World. Dark World's rogue. There's not much to say about Dark World. It ain't doing a whole lot out there. It's a big hit and miss. It's rogue. Don't play that right now. It loses the Droll or Shifter, and we are in both a Droll Shifter format, primarily Droll. You Droll this deck, it just passes turn. Simple as that. Dragons right now. I hate to do this to my boys, but Dragons would probably be considered as highest rogue right now, mainly due to there's not a lot of light and dark decks playing right now, so Bystials aren't super relevant. The deck itself is pretty good, requires a pilot who actually knows what they're doing and, you know, actually does their lines correctly. Assume everything, right? But ultimately, it's got like a mid-grade representation right now. Yeah, it's topped a couple regionals and stuff since Fire format, but it hasn't done anything too crazy. But it is definitely a very solid rogue deck. Hell, I'm going to do the bold take and put it at tier 2, actually. Trap Tricks, this is rogue. If you go first, it's awesome. If you don't, you lose. That's all I'm going to say about this deck. Go first is great. Go second, you lose. Raid Raptor. Raid Raptor just got some support right now. I would easily put this in a solid 1.5. Mainly due to the fact that on top of the Ultimate Falcon they can also throw out Rising Rebellion, which is basically a better Ultimate Falcon, guys. It's a crazy deck in its own right. It's extremely good. Requires a brain. Can play through Droll, cannot play through Shifter very well. Hit and miss, pretty good overall. Sword Soul is going to be a rogue right now. Sword Soul's board is just not enough to deal with most of the decks in the format. Because, I mean, Blackout, Baron, Shisho just ain't enough this format, guys. They can just super poly your field right quick, call it a day, and just do that to you. But going second, Board Breaker Sword Soul, it'd be slightly better, but, I mean, unless you're sniping their graveyard, it ain't doing a whole lot right now. Therion is also rogue. Pure Therions is extremely rogue. It requires someone with a brain. Hello. Therion player here with a brain. I can confirm. No matter what you cram into Therions right now, it's still going to be rogue. Therion Horus was really good in testing. Bystial Therion Horus was really good too, but still rogue overall. I just don't know what to say about that. Unchained's been making waves a little bit, but nothing crazy. I would put it in the tier 2, but I mean, it's Fire format. People are not wanting to exactly pop cards, you know? Just all I can really say. Alright, Earth Barrier Statue. Now, this Earth Barrier Statue signifies Stun. Stun's been doing a lot of stuff recently. Still rogue. Requires a player who's been doing it for a while. Some really good timing. And God Hands. I'm going to say God Hands because if you open your floodgates and everything, your one-ups, stuff like that, your rivalry, your one there can only be one, then you're crazy. If you can't open it, then you're big sad. But, I mean, hey, that's what happens. Dinos is probably, I put it in tier 2 right now. Oh, no, I wouldn't even put it in tier 2. I put that shit in rogue right now. Dinos hasn't been doing much right now. It's been like a hit and miss. I actually have an additional Sprite and then an additional Centauri down here, guys. Sorry about that. But, yeah, it hasn't been doing too much. They are gradually getting more support. They are going to get better in due time. But, I mean, that's kind of it. It's kind of hard to keep up with Fire format right now. When it comes to, if you're not playing a Fire deck or a deck that can directly counter it, you're kind of getting screwed. Mannadium, we're going to put Mannadium in tier 2, put it right up there while Drytron and Cash. Mannadium is still topping events. Mannadium's still pretty good. Requires a good player. This deck loses to Droll harder than any deck in the format. All of it. You don't have Droll and this deck's going first? Crazy. You're probably going to game 2 if they set up their entire play. Or if you have Super Poly, then you're fine. But You draw them, they're going to cry. Simple as that. Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera, we're going to put this up as tier 2 right now, especially. Pure Guardian Chimera, nah. This is for branded Chimera. Simple as that. No one's playing pure Chimera right now. Branded Chimera has been doing really good. Mostly, again, same thing as branded. Super Poly. You play Super Poly, you good, apparently, this format. That's just how that deck feels. But Super Poly, crazy. That's all I can say. Guardian Chimera is good at recurring. And, you know, popping cards on the field is cool. But, again, Super Poly. We're going to go Pearly. Pearly is so-and-so right now. It's not doing too much. It's got a couple tops kind of recently, but it's nothing crazy, right, guys? It's nothing crazy at all. Like, I don't even know what to say. But, overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. The fire format's crazy, as it always is, right? And like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. They will be down below in the description like they usually are. And thanks for watching.